Yes, Dr. Elanquin, I'm the Ruby. I'm Ruby on
Okay.
WeChat.
Yeah. Okay, so I think are we going to wait a few minutes for others to join?
Yeah, but I still cannot see Dr. Balaram.
Yeah, I sent a quick email to him as well. I think hopefully he will join soon. Yeah.
So just do we still wait him?
Yeah, I think we can wait like about 2-3 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because anyway, Dr. Nabil is will be the first speaker. Yeah. Hello all. Thank you for joining, and let's wait 2-3 minutes. Then we are happy to start.
No, still. Hello, Dr. Elanquin.
Yeah.
May we start the webinar and we could wait Dr. Balaram in the process.
Okay, sure. Yeah, sure.
And I remember he is the second speaker, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay. Okay, good day, everyone. Let me share the screen. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Good day, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you join us today for this insightful webinar, Driving the Renewable Energy Transition, Current Rare Earth Industry, Key Stakeholders and Opportunities with Primary and Secondary Resource. I'm thrilled to see such a diverse and engaged audience gathered here and ready to delve into exciting world of renewable energy. My name is Ruby. I'm the editor of Minerals and Mineral Materials. And firstly, I'd like to introduce the precise our webinar. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our journal, Minerals and Mineral Materials. Then we will invite Simon Elanquin to give our welcoming speech. After that, each speaker will give their subtopics. And after each subtopic, there is a discussion time. And in the end, Dr. Elanquin will give us closing speech, and I will invite all of us to take a group photo after that. And thank you. Before we dive into our webinar main content, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our journal, Minerals and Mineral Materials. Let's call it MM. MM is a Golden Open Access International Journal hosted by OAE Publishing Inc. You can scan the QR code to gain more comprehensive understanding of our journal in the right corner. And under the guidance of Editor-in-Chief, Professor Shaoxian Song, and our esteemed editorial board members, we have been committed to advancing the fields of minerals and mineral materials. Since its inception in September 2022, have been collaborating with 37 international experts from 19 countries. You can see this page. These are profiles of all editorial board members. To date, we have published 4 issues, including 17 high-quality articles authored by experts in these fields. In addition, you can see the data here. We have successfully organized 6 webinars, more than 18,000 views, and issued 7 special issues, showcasing its commitment to promoting collaborative research and knowledge exchange. And this special progress in this page, you can see journal covers a wide range of aims and scopes, mainly related to mining, mineral processing, environmental engineering, mineral materials. And we are also very inclusive when it comes to article tabs. And you are welcome to submit any type of high-quality manuscript, include a research article, reviews, short communication, mini review, or commentary, etc. And at this moment, I would like to take this opportunity to announce 2 pieces of good news. If you find yourself intrigued by today's topic or wish to contribute to we invite you to share your research and insights. And I promise we will waive all APC fees for you for all papers submitted to from this webinar. And for another news, with continuous growth of we welcome experts and scholars among you to join our editorial board. Or you can recommend professors and experts around you who need an open platform for your academic development or eager to drive excellence in these fields of minerals and mineral materials. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to me. And now let's turn our attention to today's webinar.
Thank you, Ruby.
And today's webinar takes the 7th in all webinars. We extend our gratitude to Dr. Ilangwen and for his invaluable support and contribution to his webinar. His involvement has granted us the opportunity to gather here and engage in fruitful discussions. And let me introduce Dr. Ilangwen shortly. Dr. Ilangwen is senior lecturer in chemical engineering at Monash University in Malaysia campus, and have been teaching both fluid mechanics and separation process. He was also a postdoctoral research associate in Earth Science and Engineering Department at Imperial College London. I'm certain that many of you are already familiar with Dr. Ilangwen, since Dr. Ilangwen is invited to teach and exchange at universities in different countries every year. He actively engages in this field and greatly promotes academic exchange and develop in this area. And so join him, waiting for your participation. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Ilangwen to introduce our webinar and every speaker specifically. Welcome. This is your floor, Dr. Ilangwen.
Okay, thank you, Ruby. Yeah, I'll share my, I have few slides. Yeah, I'll share my slides to set the ball rolling. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, could you please unshare your slides?
Yeah, I will stop my screen.
Yeah, okay, good. I think once my slides are shared, you wouldn't see my video, so that is normal. Okay, I hope you can see my slides. Can you?
Yes, we can see you, Dr. Sam.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you. Yeah, so then let's start. Yeah, I think today's our webinar topic, which is driving the renewable energy transition, and then what are the current rare earth industry development and who are the key stakeholders, and then the opportunities with the primary and secondary resources. Yeah, I have a few slides. I mean, I'll take like about 5 minutes to go through these slides, highlighting a few key things. Then our speakers can deliver their talks on specified topics. Okay, so then firstly, I mean, yeah, we are going to talk about the lanthanides and a couple of other D block elements. So these are known as rare earth elements. And I hope you can remember these elements from your high school chemistry lessons, and then the work on your project, and then the other research studies. So then the first question is, are these things rare? I think we can say rare perhaps for promethium, which is a radioactive element. And in addition, it doesn't occur typically in nature. But other than that, the other rare earth elements, including yttrium and scandium, so these are not rare in nature. So then why do we call these rare elements? Mainly because it is pretty difficult for us to find these elements in high concentrations in our mining terms as resources and reserves. Then the other aspect is these are categorized as light rare earth elements and heavy rare earth elements. Typically, the heavier ones are more expensive or more valuable. And why we need those? Mainly to drive the renewable energy developments and the electromobility. Okay, so then I'd be tempted to, give you some numbers, especially considering the electric cars, because I like that sector as well. So if we, so based on the International Energy Agency latest data, so they say that in 2021, on the roads, we have about 16.5 million cars. So if you see that part, then I think China contributes to 50% of those cars, and compared to the 2012 numbers, so 120,000 EV sales. So these are significant developments. So in other words, 10% of the car sales in 2021. So those were electric. So that is a significant number. Yes, so China, okay, they are leading the electric vehicles, but I would like to discuss about Europe a couple of slides later. I just came back from Beijing last week, and then this was my first trip after the pandemic, or after 4 years. So this time I saw many electric car models on Beijing roads. So no surprise, because now we have 5 times more, or about 450 electric car models, and specifically about 300 electric car models in China. So this one is a BYD song, and this one is, I don't know if the pronunciation is correct or not. It's a HIFI X model, a fully electric car model. In addition, here you can see a couple of Tesla models as well. So then the other thing is, so this is not very related, but in addition to the electric cars, so there are many electric scooters on Beijing streets as well. So then, yes, China, by selling more than 3 million cars in 2021, they contribute to this sector. But other than China, so the Europe, they have the large electric vehicle penetration rates. In terms of the numbers, so in Germany, okay, they lead the race. Then in terms of the market share of new electric vehicles, so that number is about 86% in Norway. So in 2021, in Europe, electric car sales, so that number was more than 2 million, about 2.7 million or 2.3 million. In addition to Europe, so then the next market or the next highest market, which is the USA, with about 600,000 electric cars in 2021. Okay, so these developments are quite good. And these developments drive the rare earth industry. Why? If we consider like full electric cars, in order to make these cars, okay, don't forget the battery materials, but here we talk about the rare earth elements. In terms of rare earth elements, we need a couple of kilograms of rare earth elements for both battery electric vehicles and the hybrid versions. Yes, there are some developments, especially in the Europes, to change the permanent magnet-based electric vehicles to the other versions. However, still the car manufacturers prefer the permanent rare earth-based, permanent magnets-driven traction motors for electric cars. So that is the current status, and that is why the rare earth elements are important, and that is why we are discussing these things and their diversifications. Okay, so in terms of the rare earth elements, we have to discuss three things. Firstly, the resources, and the second thing is a mine production, and the final one is rare earth products and their production or the value-added products. Yes, so then there are many countries who possess rare earth resources or reserves. But in terms of the mine production, China produced like 58%, and even US with their mountain pass deposit, they produce significant amount of rare earth concentrate. And additionally, Australia, Myanmar, they contribute to the rare earth mine production. But the problem is that most of the mine productions flow to China for the rare earth purification and the separation, which is high-tech and complex. In addition, some people complain it generates quite a lot of waste materials. Okay, so because of these reasons, there are two main rock types are used for rare earths, which are carbonatite rocks and the iron adsorption clays, especially in the southern China and in Myanmar. In terms of minerals, there are three minerals, bastnasite, monazite, and xenotime. So which means despite having more than 250 rare earth elements, we only use like three minerals for the current rare earth production. Okay, so then I mentioned you that, so China produced more than 85% of the rare earth products. In additionally, the US rare earth concentrates flow to China for the purification, which is the same case in the Myanmar, which is next to the Yunnan border in southern China. Despite the political instability in the Myanmar and some of the rare earth mining operations in the southern China are closed, so most of the rare earth concentrates in Myanmar, which are heavy rare earth concentrates, flow to China for the processing. So these are the official rare earth imports from Myanmar, from the Chinese Customs Statistics website. And that amount is quite significant. For example, in 2020, Myanmar producers or contributed to 40% of the heavy rare earth elements, which are the expensive ones. Okay, so then this is my last slide. Then, yes, people discuss about the renewable energy, but then they used to criticize the mining as well, saying that the mining is a dirty business. Yeah, so that is, okay, we are not going to discuss about that thing, but it is pretty difficult to discuss renewable energy and the electromobility without mining. Okay, I hope you agree for that statement. Yes, especially the iron adsorption type deposits. in southern China, specifically in Guangzhou, in Jiangxi. Yeah, so which are very important. If I'm not mistaken, they contributed to 50-60% of the heavy rare earth elements, not in China, in the world, because of the easy extraction methods. Environmental pollution happened in Jiangxi, southern China. Then even the Chinese government, they decided to shut down some of the operations starting from 2021. So as far as I know, some of the operations are still closed in order to assess the environmental impact because of the iron adsorption, clay type, rare earth mining. So therefore, we have to understand that it is not easy to develop or process rare earth elements. Yes, some of the rare earth mining cause environmental impact, and processing is restricted to a certain region, and that is why we are talking about the rare earth diversification in the other parts in order to drive them as critical metals for the renewable energy and the electromobility. Yeah, so that's it from my end. And firstly, I would like to thank the speakers who invited, who accepted my invitation. Firstly, Dr. Nabil Mancheri, who is the Secretary General of the Rare Earth Industry Association in Belgium, and which is the only rare earth industrial body outside China, who is our first speaker. And secondly, Dr. Baram, who is one of our editorial board members of the journal. And he's the former scientist and the chief scientist and head of the geochemistry division, National Geophysical Research Institute in India. In addition, my colleague, Nimila Tushanta from Department of Applied Earth Science, UOLAS University. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining here today to share your insight about the rare earth industry, new developments. And firstly, Nabil, this is your opportunity, and yeah, please share your insight on rare earth elements. In addition, the role of the REIA in terms of diversifying the rare earth outside China. Thank you.
Thank you, Saman. Let me share my screen first.
Yes, sure, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Can you make excuse me, can you make the screen bigger?
It's in full.
Yeah, I think it's full screen. Yeah, full
please
screen.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Saman, and the journal editor and the editorial team for inviting me and providing this opportunity to interact with you. Thanks, Saman has provided an extensive background of what rare earths are, where they are used, and why it is important now. So I am, like he said, I'm the Secretary General of the Global Rare Earth Industry Association, which is the only industry body, bringing all the stakeholders together globally. So I will start. I want to highlight why rare earths. I mean, the fact is that we cannot live in the modern world without these elements. Yeah, everyone, every day we use these elements in different forms or different applications, like our mobile phones, electric cars, or our energy, laptops, mobile phones, and so many things. And So there were issues of last decade you saw that the demand is growing huge. It's kind of a gold rush of the 19th century, something like that. And there were a lot of issues globally, geopolitical issues, environmental issues, governance issues, conflict related issues. These things pop up, even occasionally in different part of the world. And if you look at other metals, base metals, or for example iron, copper, steel, or aluminium, or even zinc or zirconium, they all have the global industry body that brings all stakeholders together: government agencies, public policies, industry, think tanks, and this kind of thing. Then they sit together and discuss the internal issues. But in for rare earths, it was such an important topic. We didn't have anything. So we started as a project by the European Commission, that because that we should have an industry body because we didn't exist at the global level. Then who can share the information? There was a lot of misinformation of is how the rare earths are produced. There are environmental impact of rare earth production, and there are unverified data floating around, largely by the medias, not by the scientific papers that we do produce. So that's how we came together as a project from the European Commission. So we wanted to be the leading global advocate for the rare earth element industry, and we are pretty fast. I will show in my next slide a pretty fast growing non-profit organization, bringing everyone, including the companies from China. And the core of this is that we promote the sustainable development of the rare earth value chain, and we have set a specific targets and projects that can help the industry to achieve this goal. So everyone, even the downstream companies, have to produce a sustainability report annually. Yeah, for example, if you look at Tesla or iPhone, so they all have a sustainability report, and it becoming all over the world. Is starting from Europe, but also other countries, that it becoming mandatory that you report or you show to the public what is the environmental impact of your product that you are producing. So in future you will have the CO2 footprint of your whole product displayed to the public, and we help the companies to do that. And this is such a niche market, so nobody has the exact information. So unlike unless you have a global collaboration, we cannot do that. And we also have a multicultural and experienced board of directors and an advisory board. This is an old slide. We have 80 members now. Quite a few, in last 3-4 years, we have grown pretty fast. And what defines us is that, like I said, sustainability is the top priority, and is integrated in everything we do. It's just not a preacher. We don't want to be a preacher. We do the scientific work behind that to bring sustainability to the front side of the industry. And we want to be the voice of the industry, as we are an industry body. And we communicate, like participating this kind of public forums, or writing articles or small summaries, and positive impact of rare earth value chain. There are other there are also a lot of negative information on these elements, but we want to concentrate or focus on the positive side. And we build strategic partnership with to find synergies, how we can develop a sustainable industry globally. So we will bring companies together, share information, B2B, matchmaking, and this kind of things. And we also support policy making by decision making, by actively, participating in and providing input to various national governments or regional governments like European Commission. So they have, certain set of policy goals to achieve. So our mission statement is to serve and promote and to advance the sustainable and responsible development of the global rare earth value chain. And then our mission in a bit more diverse. to develop international cooperation on intelligence and knowledge of REs and their value chain, as well as cooperative actions. Cooperative actions is very important because, as someone said, if you look at the production on processing and magnet production, it's too much concentrated, geographically concentrated. So without international collaboration, you cannot have a diversified value chain. And if you have a concentrated value chain, business or the industry perceive it as a business risk. So we want to de-risk that one from this kind of various risks, whether it is geopolitics, even environmental risk or governance risk, and so on and so forth. So that's why we bring together the major REE stakeholders, best practices. We highlight who are the one who is doing best. How much renewable energy, for example, they have been using for producing these elements, and how they have improved. So bring best practices, and also non-polluting chemical agents. If somebody is using it, there is alternatives. We communicate this one, and also we build a life cycle inventory of to showcase what are the environmental impact, and we build that inventory for the industry. And also we have a specific project that I will detail in later stage, how we can do that, and also promote the circular economy, sustainable and circular economy of REEs. So we want to be the preeminent global industry association for the promotion and development of the rare earth value chain and its stakeholders. And we are already recognized as the only one and the global leader in this sector. Then our value, what do we believe is that we are independent. We are not, though we are based in Europe, we are not European. We have members from US, China, Japan, all over the world. And we do collaborate with even if the agencies of all over the world. That integrity, diversity, we have very diverse workforce and the membership, and also the inclusion and accountability, openness and trustworthiness and focus. You have to align the sustainable development goals of the UN and focus on people. So bring everyone together to reach. Also this is it's identified as a core element to tackle the global climate change, which is a fact, and countries are formulating how can they achieve that target at least by 2050. And some developing countries, we know the constraints, so they commit by 2060 or 70 and so on and so forth. And so this is how this is not a full list. This is how our membership look like. There are largely scattered all over the world, from upstream, from exploration to the mining companies and all of them will play a vital role providing this material to the world for attaining these goals. And we have midstream who makes, especially one of the main application is the permanent magnet, which is used, like someone said, in the electric cars and electric motors, and also the wind energy turbines in huge quantity. So that's why it's becoming more and more important. If like someone said, how the demand projections of electric cars and wind energy installations, it's going to be huge. Then we have some downstream companies who are already a member of the RIA. They are in the different field. Solvay, for example, is a historical rare earth producer. They have planned multiple places, and we have, because it's also important for audio and video systems, the ANC speakers. Also, industrial motors, robots, water systems like Grundfos, then magnet manufacturers, medical companies like Bruker. They make MRIs and spectroscopies and this kind of things, and metals, and we also have a large chunk of academic institutes. Academic institutes and geological surveys like British Geological Surveys, consultancy companies like Wood Mackenzie, government agencies and research institute who are into rare earth business like Saskatchewan Research Council, universities like Exeter, Fraunhofer Institute in Germany, and so on and so forth. So like I started, what is the challenge in the RE sector? A profound, if you just Google it, a profound about how these rare earths are and sensitive and geopolitically sensitive information about RE, their value chain proposition, applications, and potential risks and opportunities. So that's make us relevant, and we need everyone talk about. We need a more diversified supply chain and less volatility in price. Compared to many other metals, you see that the prices are quite very volatile. Even in 1 month, you can have high volatile price. This actually makes the industry to develop or even investment. For example, if the price is such volatile and so much differentiating between, then it's quite difficult for any companies to take a decision because they don't see what will be the market in next 3 months. So this is quite a difficult market, and especially if investment community want to invest in upstream sectors. There is not yet a production. They see the reserves and they see the potential, but if you don't know, if you don't make profit, after 3 months, 6 months, or 5 years, then they are quite reluctant. So that's also hinder our main objective of a diversified value chain. And also you see that quite scientifically inefficient recovery of RE from end users. For example, you have everyone use lot of products, electronic products, and after 5 years, 10 years, it's all end up somewhere in the landfill, or some people take what they want, like plastics or something like. But some of these critical elements just get it there and it's lying there. And so far, I don't think, especially from the end of life products, the recycling of especially these rare earth elements is less than, I would say, it's less than 5%, maybe even less than 1% in some, most of the countries. And also, like I said before, we stay there for showcasing the best practices in terms of green mining, and we introduce, or if somebody has a technology, we introduce this to our members, and innovations in this sector. And investment is quite difficult for a diversified supply chain. We believe that it's a single company may not be able to secure full investment for their project. So we help connecting them with the stakeholders who have an interest to get the material out of the ground. So we also secure public and private investment. And also the sustainability is the core. Climate change is a global problem. Believe me, it's a global problem. And I'm sitting from the developing world side, you see that a single country cannot solve this single-handedly. So we have to bring everyone globally, and global collaboration is a must. And also we measure, there's Guardian and others, and saying that to produce a kg of rare earth, you have to produce a lot of other kind of materials, which is harmful for the environment, but without any scientific base, and they put in a lot of data, and we have to counter that. So we have the tool that can measure the environmental and social impact, and show the green benefits of REEs. And also now there is no, you have, for example, minerals like tantalum or tin, or kind of thing, that you have industry-wide certification. You have certification system for gold that is to assign that is sustainably produced, is not coming from conflict areas. But for rare earth, so far there is no industry-wide certification, and we are working very closely with the industry, but also the international standard organization ISO. They have a committee on for developing standards, ISO TC298, and we are a licensing office to the ISO to develop these standards for the industry. And also we see, as the market, like previous speaker said, this industry is concentrated. At the though at the last 10 years we have a bit kind of diversification at the upstream side, and not yet reached that the midstream and downstream. And so what is best is that that the collaboration consensus, we need to build a collaboration and consensus within the industry, and then we reach out and produce different communication tools to various stakeholders. Even we collaborated with some, and to have a nice article, we had a survey with our members, and it was a the industry was accepted, what lacks, what is the bottlenecks to develop the rare supply chain. We had a nice publication with Samen and Nimila with this survey. And like I said, we also have officially partnered with the European Commission. We are part of a number of projects in the European Commission, because there are a lot of upcoming regulations at European level, but also other national governments are starting regulations on how these products are mined, and what is the commitment of the what should be the commitment of the end of the companies for their end of life product, the buyback agreement, and how can you recycle, or there are a number of directives coming, and so we largely work with them. And we at the European level, we also have EIT Raw Materials, which is an innovation fund of the Commission that they fund R&D projects and also make matchmaking between the stakeholders. At the US, we are working with Critical Material Institute, and in Canada, of course, the Natural Resource Canada, of course, and China, the Chinese Association of Rare Earth Industry, but also a couple of national labs in China, and in Japan with JOCMEC, the government investment firm, and like I said, also in the ISO. We participate a number of other industry bodies and exhibitions where we bring together the industry to have this kind of information sharing. And like I said, we are part of a number of European projects, basically to generate necessary data and provide freely to the public, of where are the production, what is the trade, and what is the technologies, emerging technologies, and what are the emerging patents and this kind of thing. So we have a project that we collaborate, and in this project there are multiple stakeholders across the European states, because we also collaborate with other national governments for this kind of project. And now currently the major projects are European based, and for example other projects are called Resilience, where we have real R&D work happening across the sector, across the value chain, on mine production, and we largely involved in this project. It's multi-million value projects, and where new data, new information, new patents are generated. So these are the number of the projects that we involve. This is our current board, 15 members from all over the world, from Australia, from Japan, our vice president, and our president from Badrinath Veluri, from Grundfos in Denmark, and from Kotaro, from Mitsubishi UFJ, from Japan, and from Australia, and Netherlands, and so on and so forth. And this is it's a project. If you Google about rare earths, you get a lot of misinformation or hyped information about about rare earths, how they are produced, how dirty it is. So we actually wanted to prove or provide the industry that, especially the downstream companies like Tesla or Apple, that okay, this is the real data. Okay, how much it would be cost or environmental impact of producing rare earth. So we brought this as a project from the European Commission involving different stakeholders. And what we wanted to do is that creates a standardized sustainability certification for REEs. So whoever is producing, for example, REEs can use this tool and showcase, okay, this is the environmental impact of what they are producing. And if that and this is a tool that is shared across the value chain, and you add up, if an upstream player join first, then he has a customer, or the next phase, then he provide that data in a secure way, in a blockchain based tool, to the next his customer. Then he add up that data to his production, so he get a combined impact of of his product, environmental impact of his product. Then he move to a tier 1 supplier. So it seamlessly move the data across the value chain. So this is the first industry initiative that, especially for the rare earths, that we have initiated. So this is an industrial initiative that cooperates closely with upstream and downstream organizations, and to increase, because you need seamless interaction of the information. and to increase the environmental, economic, and social standards along the entire supply chain of REs and their downstream applications. And it's a huge demand. Like I said, the downstream companies want to make sure, and this also provide a tool to trace your materials. For example, a downstream companies in US, for example, Ford or GM or Tesla or a Volkswagen want to see where is the material is coming from. So for example, someone mentioned that, Myanmar last few years has been quite active in the rare earth mining and the separation side, and the case of Myanmar is a conflict and junta regime, and if the European or the customers want to know from Tesla, okay, we don't want this material in your car that we drive every day. So how Tesla prove that, okay, we don't have this material, so that we okay, this material from Myanmar. So we provide a tool that can trace their material to the mine, to the origin. So the Tesla will not go to that mine, but Tesla will ask his motor manufacturer, if he has a tier 1 motor manufacturer, okay, what is the material component of your motor? Then that motor manufacturer may not know it. He has to go to his tier 1 supplier. So it's it's not only about traceability. Then in that component, we have also the sustainability measurement, like the LCA. That's a standard tool, ISO recognized standard tool for measuring the environmental standards. So life cycle assessment. So that you get the life cycle inventory of the every product that you make or you make across the value chain. So we are building that system with the industry collaboration within our members, or involving different stakeholders. For example, Minvero, which is a member of RIA, a UK-based company, they are building a software tool, especially on LCA. So if, for example, one company, you just need to put your input to that system, and you will get the impact. For example, in LCA, you have different impact categories, not only CO2 emission. You have other kind of impact categories like water users, or all other kind of things. And then we have the Grundfos as a downstream player, because he's the end of the value chain. Downstream companies are end of the value chain, so he has to interact with all the value chain or his suppliers across until the mine. Then we have a Circularize, which is a Netherlands-based company, quite established in the blockchain tool for traceability. So here we bring two our members of who are in specializing blockchain, and another one is on the LCA. Then we, as a body, we integrate these two applications together. So now nobody has done it before, and we try this for the rare earth. Then we have BEC, which is a midstream player who is a magnet and magnet system manufacturer, which is core part of any, in most of the motors. So we have a full value chain here, and they are able to test this and validate this system and provide this to the downstream customers or even upstream customers. And we also have an advisory board across the world, representing different value chain stakeholders, companies, and also from China, Canada, so on and so forth. I think I'm on time. If you have currently at the Secretariat, we have, but also we have 5 people now. And this is, if you have any information, you will want any information, please get back to me. Thank you. And I'm open for any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nabil, for your talk highlighting the key roles of the REIA. Yeah, any questions from the audience to Dr. Nabil? I cannot see any question in the chat screen. Okay, so Nabil, then I have this question. So I understand that it takes like 10, 15 years to initiate rare earth mining and mineral processing facility. And then I have seen, so some of these rare earth mines working with REIA. So then in 2021, like we identified, like there are several companies moving in the right directions to start a mining and mineral processing facility. So then according to like your understanding, so what are the latest updates in terms of operating realistic operation by 2025 or 2030? I mean, I'm referring to outside China.
Yeah, yeah. So it's whatever is now is most of them are development stage, like you said. Even the existing one, for example, Linus, that is you are quite familiar with. They're mining in Mount Weld in Australia and then processing in Malaysia, where you are sitting. It took more than 15 years to have, and luckily they have a financial backup of especially from the Japanese side, like JobMac and a couple of companies. And the mining stage, there are a number of other projects on the well advanced stage, and we expect that there will be at least some material coming outside China by 2027. So and they are building, like Linus, they are also building cross value chain collaboration with downstream companies, couple of organizations like with Stellantis, who owns Ford and Citroen and Peugeot brands, and also GM have tie up, General Motors have tie up with a couple of others. So this kind of commitment make them advance the project quite easily. So we hope that some of them will be 3 or 4 will be ready producing by 27 or before 30. And also we a good thing is that we also have a couple of companies who are established in other materials, and they produce rare earth as a core product, but they haven't commercially utilized it. For example, companies like Iluka, Australian company, we are quite big in titanium and bits and minerals, like we have in India, and also other companies like Tronox, and also a couple of fertilizer manufacturing companies, especially in North America. And they also have, for ages, they have produced a byproduct containing rare earth, but they have landfilled it for long. And now they realize the demand is so huge, they have a business opportunity. So they are foraying. So for them, they have money, they have expertise. So they won't, for them, it won't take such a long time if they want to commercialize their product. So there is cost collaboration happening in that sector. Like, for example, our members, a big fertilizer phosphate manufacturing company called Mosaic, and also Nutrien. So they have this full stack of on the other side. So if they collaborate with other who can do a flow sheet for the rare earth, it can be quick. So it can be 5-10 years that you can get alternative source. It won't be complete 100% diversified supply chain, but this is positive thing that we see recently in outside China.
Yeah, okay, good to hear that. I mean, we are in the right direction. So there's one quick question from Dr. Balram. So his question is, in which European countries active rare earth mining happens currently? I mean, as far as I know, I mean, there are no active mining. So
there is no Balram. There is no active mining in Europe. I mean, many part of the world that we have a mentality of for last 15 years. They don't want the mining sector to be there. So, like I said, but we have the resources and reserves in Europe. And for example, the Swedish company. I mean, Sweden has been, a master or leader in the rare earth chemistry. So many of the elements you look, the Swedish scientist has identified historically. But Sweden also has a huge mining industry, sustainably produced. So I could see some kind of production coming from Sweden in especially as a byproduct of iron ore mining by a large Swedish company. They are not yet our member, but also there's also a processing company in Norway. They get the concentrate from US and other part of the world, and they're starting to process. So processing is also important. So now it's a tiny quantity, but in couple of years they are building a commercial scale plant. So 2,000 to 3,000 tons of material could be produced in Europe in short term. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nabil. Firstly, thank you for the talk. In addition, thank you very much for the contributions to the rare earth industry. Okay, so then our next speaker is Dr. Balram. Dr. Balram is going to discuss about the current rare earth industry development, especially in India. Dr. Balram, please share the slides. Then, you have about 15, 20 minutes here. Thank you.
Are you able to see the slide?
We can see the screen, but not the slides.
Really?
Yep.
No, no.
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay, I have already stop sharing. It is showing. Then stop. Then again I will. So yeah. Share screen. Then
Yeah.
a window
Then
or entire screen. I think entire screen.
Window. Just go to your window, Mr. Palra. Click on the
I think
window.
last time I have shared the entire screen. No, window. It didn't work. Now I am sharing entire screen. Let me see. Yeah, are you able to see now?
Yeah.
No?
Okay, we can see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Okay,
Make
right.
it PowerPoint.
Make it PowerPoint, please. Yeah.
Yeah. Is
Okay.
it?
Good. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. The title of my presentation is Current Developments in the Indian Rare Earth Element Industry. And see, recently I published this paper on climate change in the Singapore-based journal, Combating Climate Change and Global Warming for a Sustainable Living in Harmony with Nature. You know very well. See, India has set a target to ensure that 50% of its energy comes from renewable energy sources by 2030. And also to achieve the zero emission, means carbon neutrality by 2070, another 50, less than 50 years. As per the declaration made at the recent UN summit in Glasgow a couple of years back. So which means this kind of a thing requires lots of rare earth elements, lithium and other cobalt, etc. So if you just look from the technological paradigm shift through the history, about 300 years back, people only know about coal, lime and iron and no other elements. But later on, people started using lots of elements and lots of metals. Today, we are at this point where you need lots of elements, including rare earth elements. And you need all these comforts for our living in day to day. You need, and also we need to convert, we need to cut down the carbon dioxide, go for green technologies. So you need all these rare earth elements and a lot of other elements. So this is one of the greatest scientific invention by this gentleman, Dr. Masato Sagawa, who invented this neodymium iron boron magnet. It in fact changed the whole scenario. Even Chinese are able to lift their magnetic trains using rare earth element. I don't want to go. See where from these. All these conversion from to the carbon neutrality, you require lots of elements, lots of metals. Where will you get these materials for the clean energy future? That's the question. So, if you look at the global distribution of the rare earth element deposits, in fact, rare earth elements are everywhere, including Europe. But the problem is they are not in a very good concentration range in most of these deposits, so that economically they can be taken out. And as our previous speaker told, that bastnaesite, monazite, and genetone are the major minerals out of 250 minerals. And if you go into the world scenario of rare earth reserves, India ranks fifth. Of course, first China, then Vietnam, Russia, Myanmar, and India. And if you look at the production, and India ranks maybe seventh, even Vietnam, Thailand, Burma, Myanmar are going ahead, in fact, of India. And these are the various places where you find lots of, I don't want to go into details, but we have very promising carbonatite deposits in this here, Amba Dongar and Rajasthan. And we have the monazite deposits all over our coast. Very recently, I published this So we have the primary, we have all these kinds of primary deposits in India. We have even the secondary deposits like laterite and absorption clays. Iron absorption clays, particularly in this area, in the northeastern. And we also have the ocean bottom sediments reporting very high concentrations in the Indian Ocean nearer to the country. And we have phosphorite deposits. We have lots of coal fly ash available. And coal fly ash has a promising, can turn out to be a very promising RE resource mineral. And lots of other, and long time, about 70 years back, in 1952, the Indian Rare Earth Mineral, Indian Rare Earths Limited was IREL was started, which only the major producer of REE, and mainly it processes monazite, which is collected from the sea coast, and they have basically their problem is to provide thorium to the DAE, Department of Atomic Energy in India, and they also produce lots of minerals: ilmenite, rutile, zirconium, monazite, sillimanite, garnet, and a lot of thorium nitrate, and also rare earth chlorides, etc. And under the same umbrella, one permanent magnet plant was started with the Japanese collaboration recently in Visakhapatnam. In Kollam, in Kerala, they process the beach sediments, and also there are a lot of other products. Basic problem is these monazite contain significant quantities of rare earth elements. So the India from that time onwards, 70 years onwards, they have not let the private firms to participate in this particular program. That is the reason India is little behind. So today, yeah, this is the point I was mentioning. If you have more than 0.25% of monazite in you cannot handle. Only government agency can handle. That is the kind of, and also we have the rare earth occurrences all across the country. A lot of work has been done reported by GSI, our own institute like NGRI, and a lot of other institutions. But consolidated efforts were not done because of lack of investment from the government side, because our government spends only 0.7% of GDP on R&D, whereas you can see the US spends 2.8 and China nearly 5%. So you need, if you want to really consolidate the rare earth element industry in the country, you need to spend more on R&D. And also, in addition, we have alternative sources like red mud. So NALCO red mud contains about 222 ppm. In fact, 300 ppm is around the cutoff limit. But basing on the price, sometimes even this can be very cost effective, provided you have a economic recovery process. And very recently, yesterday only, I was listening to a talk by Indalco man. They too have huge reserves of red mud. And recycling of e-waste, particularly for rare earth elements, is not, in fact, not at really the necessary point in India. Though India generates about 10.1 million metric tons against the global e-waste amount of 53.6, which was reported a couple of years back, and only 17% of the e-waste is being recycled. So India is right now realized the importance and trying to invest more, and also going for international collaborations, particularly with Japan and with Australia. Australia actually, Australian companies, they will interact with the the Indian companies like Tata Group, Aditya Birla Mahindra Limited, Permanent Magnets Limited, Durga Magnets, and for off-take arrangements from the advanced Australian RE projects. And also, very recently, I published a paper in the Minerals and Mineral Materials entitled Deep Sea Mineral Deposits as a Future Source of Critical Metals and Environmental Issues. So because the land resources are getting depleted with respect to, because there is a hungry world actually now for the rare earths. Now people are looking more towards oceans for the rare earth elements. This is what I gave, very good information in this particular review. I request all of you to go through this paper. And we have also reported from Indian Ocean very high concentrations of rare earth elements. Not only our study, but also a couple of other studies also have reported a lot of high concentration. This is the picture I gave in that publication, Minerals and Materials, Mineral Materials publication, on the occurrences of polymetallic nodules, polymetallic sulfides and vents, and also RE-rich muds, then cobalt-rich crust or ferromanganese crusts in the entire world. And we had a program actually, a collaborative program from NGRI. I was leading this project from our side, our institute side, and NIO, National Institute of Oceanography in Goa, and then NCPOR, National Center for Polar and Ocean Research in Goa. It was funded by the government organization, Ministry of Environmental Sciences. Ministry of Earth Sciences. We selected this area called Afanasi Nikitin Seamount. We produced a bathymetric maps, and we hired a Russian vessel. It was already 10 years actually since my colleagues. There are 3 of my students and 1 of my colleague from NGRI. Other 3 are from my PhD students at the time. Of course, they are finished PhDs and also settled down in different institutions across the country. And this is the cobalt crust on the marine basalt. This black material contains very rich RE deposit. Sometimes cerium itself about 1500 ppm. And we analyzed it. You can see the cerium, cobalt concentration, and here you can see cerium nearly 1700 ppm cerium alone. And total RE will be more than 2000, even more. So GSI, Geological Survey of India, Marine Wing is doing a lot of work on this area, and also National Institute of Oceanography, and also NCPOR. Now the budget has been allocated by government on priority basis, and in future I think you will see more active exploration work. NIOT, National Institute of Ocean Technology, even is planning to have a submersible vessel, remotely operated vessel for the mineral exploration as well as environmental, ocean eco studies in future. And these are some of my publications since last 2-3 years. This is the rare earth elements, a review of applications and occurrence, exploration, analysis, and recycling, even environmental impact, all aspects. In fact, I'm very glad to share with you that it is approaching 1000 citations. Now it is around 933 or something like that. And this is the paper last year I published on the RE exploration strategies. And even satellites are being used to understand the neodymium anomalies from the near infrared spectrometers which were installed in satellites. These are some of the other papers on sources and applications of rare earth elements, and also indicator minerals for RE exploration studies and use of portable analytical instruments. And this paper is under actually review. The advances in analytical techniques for the applications in exploration, mining, extraction, metallurgical studies of rare earth elements. And in this, this is already published. The potential future, other than the primary and secondary resources, what other potential RE resources are available? For example, coal fly ash is reporting very high concentrations, which is lying idle. And red mud, for example, is having very potential concentrations of rare earth elements, which is lying idle. So these can be utilized. I have brought all those things into focus over here in this particular paper. And currently, with respect to rare earth elements, I am working on a manuscript script entitled Recycling of Rare Earth Elements for Circular Economy. And also, I am a guest editor for a special issue on rare earths for this journal Minerals, and in which I will have 2 publications. And there will be another, I think, more than 20 publications on rare earth elements for all over the world in this particular issue. And also, in addition to that, every year we have a treatise on geochemistry. I mean, 5-6 years they updated. This year they are updating, and in a particular volume, volume 5, I think. Yeah, volume 5. Editor is Gabriel from Purdue, Indiana University in USA. So my paper, my chapter is entitled Rare Earth Elements Resources, Applications, Extraction Technologies, Chemical Characterization, and Global Trade, a comprehensive review. This is coming up in a few months, in fact. So India should urgently chalk out a clear policy for the rare earth sector with realistic objectives, with more investment and exploration in exploration, mining, and extraction of rare earth elements, lab scale and also pilot plants expertise in manufacturing selected intermediate products. And we need to focus on more on the environmentally friendly methods for the extraction and processing of selected RE products. And we need to develop the pilot plants and for the recovery of rare earths from alternative sources like e-waste, coal fly ash, phosphorite, in industrial waste like red mud and phosphogypsum. India must also have more international collaborations and invest RE in RE R&D programs, and all particularly in upstream and downstream processes in the RE value chain. And India particularly should amend this Atomic Mineral Concession Act 2016, which has reserved all beach sand mine deposits containing more than 0.75% monazite for the government-owned companies. This means this measure, if supposing this means this is amended, this measure will introduce more players into the value chain, opening it up for investments. These measures will, if taken immediately, have potential to transform India into a major RE producer and also meet the country's requirement for the carbon neutrality by 2070. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Saman, who has invited me to make this presentation, and Dr. Ruby Jang, who had some correspondence with me, and also the Minerals and Mineral Materials Journal for giving me this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Balaram, for your talk, especially highlighting IREL and their projects in India, and in addition, the deep sea mining in order to get some of the critical metals, including the rare earth elements. Okay, any questions from the audience to Dr. Balaram? Okay, if no, or if you have any questions, even you can use the chat screen to type your questions. Yep, please feel free to do it. Okay, Dr. Balaram, I have this question. I remember in 2020, so the IREL, so they announced expression of interest to start rare magnet facility in Kerala. So then, I don't know the current developments. I mean, do you have any kind of current updates? I mean, concerning this facility? So this is not the Japanese one in Visakhapatnam, but they wanted to develop a new one in Kerala.
Oh, really? I don't have. I think Raj Nair, Dr. Raj Nair is on the line. I think if he has some information, I think he'll be able to share. I really don't know about the Kerala magnetic factory. I'm sure I saw Raj Nair, who is from IREL.
Okay.
He has
Okay.
very good knowledge. He's on the
Yeah.
on the line. I don't know if he can speak. I don't have this information. I'm sorry.
Okay. No problem. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So then we can start the last talk of the day, which will be provided by Nimila Dushant, who's going to talk about the secondary resources and how can we use these secondary resources, especially to diversify the rare earth supply chains, which will be very important, especially let's say after 2030. Yeah. Or towards 2050. Okay, over to you, Nimila. Please share the slides and then you can start. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Saman. Before that, I think there is a question in the chat box for Dr.
Okay.
Balaram.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's a one. The question is, Akshay, he would like to know any pilot scale rare earth extraction facilities in India using coal ash or fly ash.
No. There are some research papers publishing which were done in their own laboratories. I don't think, to my knowledge, there is any pilot plant for extraction of. I wish that you need to have more number of pilot plants all over the country, particularly nearer to those thermal power stations.
So what are the main kind of constraints, Dr. Balaram, to develop these facilities in India?
Actually, suddenly, last couple of years only people realized the importance of rare earth elements. And now a lot of university department people were collecting the fly ash and then trying to see what kind of RE concentrations are there. And they're publishing. Now the things are becoming more and more aware. I think very soon, I think we will have it. Yes.
Yeah, because you mentioned the targets in 2030 and 2070, but still, like if you take like electric vehicles, the usage is less than 0.5% in India. So
it's not so much when compared to countries like China and US. Yes.
True. Yeah. Hopefully we'll see kind of more development in this sector, especially in India. Yeah, in the next 10-15 years. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yes.
Okay, so then, Dr. Balaram, I think, please unshare your slide. Then, Nimila can share his slides.
Oh, all right.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yep.
Done?
Yes, done. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Saman. Can you hear me clearly and see?
Yeah, perfect. Yep, you can start once
perfect.
you're ready.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Dr. Saman. First of all, I would like to thank for inviting me for this valuable session as a speaker with two of the most prominent speakers in the industry. And today I'm going to talk about the role of secondary sources of the role of secondary resources on supply chain diversification of rare earth elements. Okay, since other speakers have given a very detailed introduction about the rare earth elements and their application, I'm not going to not going in detail with these things. You all know that Rare earth elements are lanthanides, yttrium, and scandium, and they are applied in a very large spectrum of applications. Then for the enable transition towards the clean energy, we need rare earth elements. And in the current status, we need to fill up the supply-demand gap, always, as well as we need to maintain a very steady supply. Therefore, currently, the industry is heading for diversification of the supply chain. Today, my talk is more focusing on that aspect. So let's see, why do we need supply chain diversification for rare earth elements? The majority of the global rare earth production is concentrated in a few countries, especially in China being the dominant producer. So this creates a heavy dependence on only few suppliers. Therefore, diversification helps to reduce this dependency and its associated risk. Then, especially geopolitical tensions or trade disputes can lead to export restrictions or sanctions on critical materials like rare earth elements. So by diversifying the supply chain, countries can face less impacts on such risk and maintain a stable flow of these essential materials. Then if we have a diversified supply chain, it fosters competitions among different suppliers and encourage technological advancements in rare earth mining, processing, and recycling. This competition can lead to more efficient and sustainable methods of rare earth production. Then industries that heavily rely on rare earth elements, such as electronics and renewable energy technologies, they need stable supply to function properly. Therefore, diversification helps to avoid supply shortages and price fluctuations, ensuring economic stability in these sectors. Then by diversifying the supply chain, other countries with significant rare earth resources can develop their mining industries, and also this can boost local economies as well as provide an alternative source to supply the rare earth elements to the global market. And finally, concentration of rare earth element production in specific region makes the supply chain vulnerable to natural disasters, pandemics like that we experienced for last few years, or other unforeseen events. Therefore, diversified supply chain can better withstand such disruptions. Then let's see why we can't have this diversification so far. While rare earth elements can be found in various locations around the world, the number of economically viable deposits is relatively limited. Therefore, identifying and developing new sources outside the dominant production regions can be challenging as well as it is time consuming. Then extracting and processing of rare earth elements can be complex and costly due to the low concentrations in ores and the need for the advanced technologies. Therefore, new sources might require significant investment to become commercially viable. Then surely rare earth mining and processing can have substantial environmental impacts. Therefore, we have to properly manage them. Navigating environmental regulations and obtaining permits for new mining operations can be a lengthy and challenging process. Then this is a very crucial point that developing a new rare earth element supply chain requires adequate infrastructures, including transportation, refinery facilities, and logistics. So setting up such infrastructure in new locations may face infrastructure deficits and logistical hurdles. Then to diversify in the supply chain might involve the use of different extraction and processing technologies. Therefore, implementing new technologies and scaling up them to meet the demand can be technically challenging. And finally, I feel that the demand for rare earth elements is subject to market fluctuations driven by changes in technology trends and economic conditions. So new suppliers entering into the market may face uncertainties regarding the long-term demand and pricing. Therefore, we need to search different options, and one best option is developing a supply chain based on secondary sources. Let's see what are these secondary sources. So as Dr. Balaram said, e-waste is one of the best secondary source which has higher concentrations of rare earth elements, and e-waste has 6 classes as you see in this figure, and it has high quantification as far as generation is concerned. So even when we reach the 2030, the expectation would be 74 million tons of e-waste. Therefore, we have a large quantity, and it creates an environmental issue as well. And here I am giving you some average total rare earth concentrations in different e-waste components. So you can see this, and especially smartphones, earbuds, they show high concentration mainly because of the usage of neodymium iron boron magnets, which contain high amount of neodymium and praseodymium content. And next secondary source would be mine tailing. So in the global context, we have enough mine tailings in the mines, rare earth mines, but with the given concentrations currently available, conventional mining and processing techniques are not economically viable to extract rare earth elements from mine tailing. Therefore, we need to develop new extraction techniques to use this mine tailing as a secondary source of rare earth elements. Then another secondary source would be red mud, which is a main byproduct of the Bayer process, and it has a significant amount of rare earth elements. In the global context, again, the generation of red mud is really high. Therefore, the source is there, but still only the lab scale experiments have been carried out to extract rare earth elements, but we need to scale up them to diversify the rare earth supply chain based on these secondary sources. Then we have phosphogypsum. It is also a byproduct of phosphorus fertilizer production, and it also has high quantity of rare earth elements, and large quantity of phosphogypsums are available in the world. Therefore, again, only the lab scale experiments have been carried out so far. The development is relatively slow. Therefore, if we can develop new technologies, especially cutting edge technologies to extract rare earth elements from these available resources, it would be really valuable for supply chain diversification. Then, as Dr. Balaram said, we have fly ash and bottom ash associated with coal combustion. They also possess a good potential for being a secondary source for rare earth elements. Then phosphate rock, which used for the fertilizer production. It contains around 0.3 to 1% of rare earth elements. Currently in Europe, we can find some developments where they extract rare earth elements from the phosphate fertilizer productions. Here you have one source. If you like, you can read more on these developments. Then there are some other potential sources, secondary potential sources as well. For example, deep sea mud, ocean floor nodules, acid mine drainage, then geothermal waters and gem mining waste, especially in Sri Lanka, and then river and lake sediments. These are some secondary rare earth sources. Currently, there are some research developing on these sources, which are lab scale. And in lab scale, researchers were able to extract rare earth elements, but it is very challenging to scale up to the industrial scale. Then let's see how we can do that. Surely we need cutting edge technologies to extract these rare earth elements from these secondary sources. One option is urban mining. Urban mining refers to the process of extracting valuable resources, including rare earth elements, from mainly focusing on the e-waste. Therefore, recycling and processing of these waste stream through the urban mining offer an opportunity to recover rare earth elements, and especially it reduces the burden on traditional mining. To fully harness the potential of urban mining for rare earth elements, efficient recycling technologies and awareness programs and supportive policies are crucial for encouraging individuals and industries to recycle their electronic waste. And next, emerging technology is phytomining, which is also known as agromining. It is an innovative approach to extract rare earth elements from the secondary sources, mainly focusing on mine tailings. They use a specialized plant called hyperaccumulators. These plants have the natural ability to accumulate high concentration of rare earth elements without showing any symptom. Then they were harvested and processed to extract rare earth elements. So phytomining offers a potentially sustainable and economically friendly method of recovering rare earth elements, and also it reduces the need for conventional mining and its associated ecological impact. Then we have another emerging technology called biology, which is a biotechnological process that uses microorganisms to extract rare earth elements from these secondary sources. And these microorganisms, such as bacteria, fungi, they release specific organic compounds that dissolve and mobilize the rare earth elements from these sources. And apart from that, we have some future options. Maybe still they are not mainly focusing. One option is deep sea mining. So deep sea mining of rare earth elements has gained attention due to the potential abundance of these elements in deep ocean nodules, crust, and sediments, as Dr. Balaram said. So, however, the process of deep sea mining raises environmental concerns, as it can disturb delicate marine ecosystems and cause potential impacts on marine life. So, it has become a subject of debate among environmentalists and policymakers. Then we have some interesting option, space mining, also called lunar mining. The prospect of space mining for rare earth elements holds potential for supporting future space exploration and colonization efforts, while also addressing resources scarcity on Earth. Then there are some current development. They try to scale up the extraction of rare earth elements from these secondary resources up to the pilot scales and then industrial scale. These are some examples around the world where some stakeholders try to use the urban mining to extract rare earth elements from e-waste, and then some other facilities to extract from fly ash, red mud, and then phytomining approaches and bioleaching approaches as well. Then let's see what are the challenges and limitations for extracting rare earth elements from these secondary resources. First thing is rare earth elements are often present in low concentration in these secondary resources. Therefore, it makes their extraction and separation technically challenging and economically unviable in some cases. Then compared to the primary rare earth mining, there is still a lack of mature and efficient technologies for the extracting rare earth elements from these resources. Yes, research and development efforts are going on, but the progress is still slow. Then again, as I explained, successfully extracting rare earth elements on a lab scale may not necessarily translate to economic viability and efficiency at a larger industrial scale. Therefore, we need to scale up all these lab scale experiments, but it is really challenging. Then again, there are some regulatory hurdles, especially when it comes to the managing waste and ensuring the environmental compliance. Then it is high. Surely we need to spend a lot of money for developing these extraction techniques, because developing and implementing extraction technologies can be costly, mainly due to the we need specialized equipment, then expensive reagents and they are very energy intensive processes. Therefore, this would be a very costly process. Then these processes may generate hazardous waste, also some emissions, potentially leading to the pollution if not adequately treated. And the last challenge would be that secondary resources, especially e-waste and mine tailing, have complex and variable composition. Therefore, different sources may contain different combinations of rare earth elements, and therefore we need tailored extraction method for each and every source. These are the references. And finally, I would like to say that to diversify the supply chain based on these secondary resources, we need the collaborative effort, including all the policymakers, researchers, stakeholders, and all the people who are dealing with rare earth elements. So without having a collaborative effort, it is really difficult to diversify the rare earth supply chain based on the secondary resources. So thank you very much again for giving me this opportunity. If you have any questions, I am happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Nimila, for your talk on the secondary resources and how we can use those to diversify the rare earth elements. Any questions from the audience? Yeah, we have some time. Yeah, okay, so then we can discuss a few things on secondary resources until we get some questions, if any. Yeah, so you discuss about the different the secondary resources and how we can use those for the rare earth elements. So then my question is, what would be the exact contribution of recycling using secondary resources to produce rare earth elements? Because a lot of researchers and a lot of companies, especially outside China, they discuss about the secondary resources due to lack of primary rare earth mining outside China.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to the recycling, currently very small quantity of secondary resources are recycled to recover rare earth elements. But maybe after 2030, to enhance the recycling amount, I think all the stakeholders focusing on creating good supply chain and enough infrastructure, then only we can have a good impact on recycling of these, especially these e-waste, and then developing a supply from these recycling processes.
Yeah, okay, good, Nimila. And there's one question, even I think Dr. Baram can answer if you have some insights on this one. Thank you, Santosh. Your question is, if it is true that the cutoff grade for rare earth in coal is 115 to 130 ppm, if you get the coal having higher rare earth concentration than this cutoff grade, so is there any specific way to utilize this waste or the coal as secondary resources to get the rare earth elements?
Actually, the industry cutoff rate is around 300 ppm for the primary resources like carbonatites, etc. But cutoff rate actually keeps changing. It depends on the extent of the resource available, the current market rate, demand, and the facilities for processing facilities, what you have. I mean, so many factors will control the cutoff rate. So once upon a time, was a tailing has become, for example, in India, the gold mine, Kolar gold mine tailings, which contained about 1.5 ppm, were left out at that time. But today they have become a kind of a valuable resource for extraction of gold. So like that, it's very difficult, in fact, to tell the cutoff rate. But coal world over, while I was summarizing some of those, I found out that worldwide coal reserves, particularly the fly ash reserves, have shown very promising concentrations of rare earth elements. In future, I'm sure that lots of pilot plants would come up, particularly nearer to the coal thermal power stations. So far, we have seen most of the publications coming from the university departments, where the young researchers showed some interest and went to the those thermal power stations, collected fly ash, and then tried to do some. But in future, I'm hopeful that we'll see more and more pilot plants coming up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Thank you, Dr.
that is true. In addition, even for this ion adsorption clays, that cutoff grade is even 200, 300 ppm. But the good thing about the ion adsorption clay is that easy mineral processing, because the rare earth ions simply adsorb on the clay matrix, so then we can easily get it, which is not the case for the other, let's say the fly ash and the electronic waste, where the composition is quite complex. So then we need to understand that even this cutoff grade differs for different primary resources and different secondary resources. And if the mining is easy or the processing is easy, yes, then even we can process the very low grade ones.
Also, yeah.
Yeah. So that my next question, Nimila, okay, for any secondary resources based rare earth extractions, we need to get like very established supply chain of these second resources and the waste material. But these things are kind of quite difficult and different in developed countries and developing countries. For example, Dr. Balaram mentioned about e-waste, and India generates more than 3 million tons of e-waste per year. Then only 5-10% processed by the formal industry, mainly for gold, copper, silver, because these are the expensive ones. But then the remaining thing or residue is discarded in landfill or the other measures. Then the 90% of the e-waste is handled by the informal sector without proper legislative frameworks. So then, considering these like differences in developed countries and developing countries, especially handling on the secondary resources and the waste fraction. So then how can we ensure efficient supply chains of secondary resources to think about diversification of the rare earth, especially after 2030?
Yes, here in this case, in most developed countries, they have a good legislation frame. But for the developing countries, first of all, as I end the presentation, policymakers have to develop a very good policy framework as well as the legislative framework, and then they need to develop a very sustainable method to collect for example, all the e-waste. Then if we can collect them properly, then only we can ensure that we have enough secondary resources for the supply chain diversification. So that's why all the stakeholders in the industry, first they need to have a good legislative framework. Then they have to properly collect all the secondary resources, for example, let's say e-waste, and then they have to quantify that whether the quantity available there is enough to diversify the supply chain based on these secondary sources. So currently, I think developed countries have the initial step there, but developing countries, they need to develop a proper legislative framework.
I think that is important. In addition, the related question is, do you agree sending some of these materials to, let's say, the established facilities and do the extraction in those countries?
That is a good point. Especially developing countries, if they can collect all these secondary resources properly, and then they can send to the available facilities, for example, in Europe or in China or even in Japan. So first they have to work on each and every country, and then they can see what are the future options for them. Either they extract rare earth elements in their country or send them to the available facilities in the world.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Can I add a point over here?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yeah. For example, lithium, the EV batteries, lithium is being extracted as a crude substance over here in India by a company called E-Parisara in Bangalore.
Okay.
And they and also in Sripuram in Andhra Pradesh, another state actually, adjacent state to Karnataka. They send the crude, which contains huge concentrations of lithium, to Belgium. I think the Umcor or some.
Umicore, yeah, Umicore.
Umicore. They send where they separate out the pure lithium and then send back to these people.
Yep.
And of course, on charge basis.
Yeah. Yeah, because okay. Once we talk about the renewable energy, then one side is the lithium and the other battery metals, and then the other side is the rare earth elements. So then today, yes, true. We cannot forget about the lithium and the other battery metals in addition to the rare earth elements. But still, I mean, there are a lot to do in terms of kind of developing the techniques to get the rare earth out from these secondary resources. Yeah. Any other questions, comment from the audience? Okay, if no, then Ruby, do you have any comments? Okay, before that, again, I would like to thank the invited speakers, Dr. Nabil Manchuri from the Rare Earth Industry Association. So then Dr. Balram discussing the rare earth industry development, especially in India. In addition, Nimila Dushanta from the OLS University in Sri Lanka, and discussed the secondary resources to diversify the rare earth industry. So thank you everyone for your contribution and time and answering the questions today. I look forward to kind of see you all in the future, and in addition, look forward to, get your valuable contributions to the rare earth industry in addition to the critical metals. Yeah, thank you. Rui, yeah, it's over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ilankun. And thank you, Dr. Balaram. Thank you, Dr. Dashanta and Dr. Manchuri. Is Dr. Manchuri here?
Dr. Nabil Manchuri mentioned me that he has other appointments, so then he left the meeting a bit early, yes.
Okay. Before we conclude, let's capture the memory moment together. I can request all of speakers and Dr. Ilankun to turn on your cameras. Let's take a group photo, okay? And
sure,
all the attendants, if you'd like to turn on your camera, let's take a photo together. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you for your time and engagement.
Yeah, thank you for your support as well in the last few weeks. Yeah, have a good day. Yeah,
have a good day. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye then. Yeah, bye-bye everyone. Yeah.